Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Africa Today. We're bringing you the latest development on the ground on the African continent. And we start with the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda, where Central Africa battles a new Ebola outbreak. Health authorities are racing to contain the deadly virus amid growing concerns over cross-border transition. Despite significant challenges, international organizations and local health workers are intensifying the response efforts, offering hope that the outbreak can be brought under control before it spread further. Let's watch the following report.
The Democratic Republic of the Congo and Uganda are currently battling a major Ebola outbreak caused by the rare strain of the virus. The outbreak was officially declared in May 2026 and has been classified by the World Health Organization (WHO) as a public health emergency of international concern. According to the latest WHO and Africa CDC updates, the outbreak has resulted in hundreds of confirmed cases and thousands of deaths, primarily in eastern DRC, while Uganda has also reported confirmed infections. Health authorities face significant challenges, including insecurity in affected areas, limited laboratory capacity, population displacement, and community trust. A major concern is that the strain currently has no approved vaccine or specific treatment, facing health workers to rely on supportive care, isolation, contact tracing, and infection control measures. The WHO's partners have launched a $580 million emergency response plan to strengthen surveillance, the treatment centers, and cross-border preparations. Despite challenges, there have been encouraging developments where Ebola patients have recovered after receiving intensive medical care, and new treatment centers have been opened in affected regions to improve patient outcome and contain the transmission.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Still watching Africa Today, and now moving to the African Union meetings that will be scheduled to be here in Egypt this month. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has invited regional leaders to participate in the African Union mid-year coordination meetings due to be held in Cairo in June. Also, African leaders are preparing for a series of key continental meetings. The focus is increasingly shifting towards strengthening regional cooperation, accelerating economic growth, and finding collective solutions to shared challenges, with Africa projected to remain one of the world's fastest growing regions in 2026.
African nations are enforcing their commitment to unity and collective action as leaders work to address pressing challenges, ranging from health emergencies and security concerns to economic development and climate change. At recent discussions in Addis Ababa, African Union officials emphasized the importance of mobilizing resources from within the continent and strengthening coordination and cooperation among member states. Leaders stressed that closer coordination is essential to tackling shared challenges and advancing sustainable development across Africa. The focus on continental cooperation comes as Egypt prepares to host important African Union gatherings later this month, including AU Mid-Year Coordination Meeting and Africa Business Forum. The meetings are expected to bring together heads of state, policymakers, and business leaders to discuss regional integration, investment opportunities, and strategies for accelerating economic growth. Economic prospects for Africa remain encouraging despite uncertainty as a global economy. According to forecasts from the African Development Bank, the continent is expected to record growth of around 4.2% in 2026, making it one of the fastest growing regions in the world. East Africa is projected to lead growth, driven by investments, infrastructure, technology, and trade. Analysts say stronger regional cooperation, expanded intra-African trade, and continued investment in key sectors will be critical to sustaining this momentum. As African leaders gather for upcoming meetings, the focus will be on translating political commitments into concrete actions that improve the lives of citizens across the continent. The upcoming discussions are expected to shape Africa's development agenda and reinforce the continent's efforts build a more resilient, integrated, and prosperous future.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're still watching Africa Today, and now we have over the phone Ambassador Ahmed Haggag. He is former Assistant Secretary General of the Organization of the African Union. Thank you very much, Ambassador Haggag, for joining us in Africa Today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ambassador Haggag, we want to start first by talking about the importance of the regional cooperation in addressing Africa's current economic and security challenges.
Can you spell again the name of the meeting, please?
No, it's not a meeting. I'm asking about the importance of regional cooperation in addressing Africa's current economic security challenges.
You know, Egypt is having 5 sub-regions.
Yeah.
And it is important to have cooperation and coordination among themselves in order to make access of the Africa free trade area in Africa, which allow cooperation in economic affairs among the different African countries.
Of course. 55 countries are participating in this agreement.
This agreement?
Yeah, I'm talking about the 55 countries participating in the free trade area agreement, Ambassador Haggag.
Yes, 55 African countries which allow either free trade across the continent without any custom duties or reduced custom duties according to the region it represents. And is the last agreement which I hope will succeed. Africa has experienced some failures before in African economic cooperation, and we hope that this agreement will succeed. It started several years ago. It's going okay so far, but needs more political will among leaders of African Union Summit.
Ambassador Haggag, what are the biggest obstacles preventing deeper economic integration among the African countries?
The not faithfully agreeing and to implement faithfully the rules of the free trade area.
Yes.
Some countries are going behind the rules in order to increase their share in exports, but so far these are not the major obstacles, but it's an important obstacle.
And looking ahead, Ambassador Haggag, what steps should African leaders prioritize to ensure the sustainable and inclusive development across the continent?
The African Union should monitor the implementation of this agreement and report to the summit about the performance of each African country or each sub-regional cooperation in the continent. Otherwise, heads of state should face faithfully their responsibility in order to correct the behavior of the different African countries. Otherwise, there will be no true African free trade zone.
Ambassador Haggag, we want to talk more about East Africa and why is expected to remain the fastest growing region in the continent so far.
East Africa is, you mean basket region? East Africa is an important sub-region. It has, many countries have access to the Red Sea, therefore they have free exports using maritime routes.
Yes.
And although the Iran-American war is hindering the free passage of exports and imports through the Red Sea as it used to do before. African countries, not only in East Africa, but most African countries are suffering from the effects of this American-Iran war, preventing the free passage of goods and services.
Yeah. Ambassador Haggag, back to the Africa continent, free trade area. How does this agreement contribute to stronger economic growth and also for job creation in the African continent?
You know, this area has a headquarters in Ghana, and they have a Secretary General supervising the implementation of this free trade area. And Africa has to come together peacefully in order to guarantee that the success of the free trade area will be implemented faithfully. But this is an obstacle which many free trade areas in the world is suffering from. Look what's happening in North America. The United States is not honoring its obligation for the free trade area with Canada and Mexico, and the free trade area is in jeopardy. And also in Asia, China is the major leading country, but other Asian countries are suffering from the implementation of the rules faithfully. So it is, but Africa, other regions are still rich, but Africa is poor. Therefore, they need to cooperate peacefully and strictly adhere to the rules of the treaty.
Ambassador Haggag, tell us more about the new roads established between the African countries to ease the trade process so far.
Every export to any African countries has to be accompanied with a certificate of the origin of the export material. It needs at least 49% should be homegrown. It's not allowing any non-African countries to find a backdoor exportation to African countries using its ties with any African country. So the free zone needs to have an origin of the goods exported, not less than national 49%.
Yeah. Ambassador Haggag, how can the African countries mobilize more domestic resources to finance developmental projects in the African continent?
We have a very good bank, the African Development Bank in Abidjan, which is financing trade among African countries. In Cairo, we have the Import and Export Bank, which is financing exports and imports by African countries. So we have enough good performing organization and financial institutions which will allow smooth and free trade cooperation among the African countries. It needs, but most of the African members, they have a fragile economic base. Therefore, they still depend mainly with trade with the former colonial powers.
Yes.
But it is okay. We have to increase to trade Europe and non-European countries were colonizing Africa. But we have to, at the same time, increase inter-African trade in order to not to continue the economic adherence with the former previous colonial powers.
Of course. Ambassador Ahmed Haggag, the former Assistant Secretary General of the Organization of the African Union. Thank you very much, Ambassador Haggag, for talking to us in Africa Today. And moving to Somalia, Somalia grapples with constitutional reforms and election disputes, growing tensions between the government and opposition, who have triggered political uncertainty and raising also concerns about stability, security, and the country's democratic future. Let's watch.
Experiencing one of the most significant political challenges in recent years as disagreements over constitutional reforms and election plans deepen divisions between the federal government, opposition leaders, and regional states. The crisis has raised concerns about stability in a country already facing security threats from the group of Al-Shabaab. The controversy began after Parliament approved a constitutional amendment in March 2026. Supporters say the reforms are designed to modernize Somalia's political system and pave the way for direct elections. And critics, however, argue that the changes could expand presidential powers and delay the electoral process without a broad political consensus. Tensions escalated in recent days when clashes broke out in the capital Mogadishu between government forces and militants linked to opposition groups. The violence followed planned demonstrations against President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed and concerns over the future electoral roadmap. International partners, including the United Nations and the African Union, have called for dialogue and restraint. The political dispute has also strained relations between the federal government and the several regional administrations, with some states suspending cooperation with Mogadishu over constitutional and power-sharing disagreements. Analysts warn that prolonged political uncertainty could distract attention from pressing security and humanitarian challenges facing the country.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of our Africa Today. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more to come on Nile TV International. This was Abir Mitwali.